Wheel of Genre, the show for readers who know that money is the devil's plaything in this dollhouse we call life. Right now, we are reading every short story in Harlan Ellison's anthology, Dangerous Visions. Stubbornly, we will not give up. And right now, it is, what is this? James Cross's The Dollhouse. I'm Zach, and this week I'm really interested in the tonal differences, how the story fits in with the other tales of this anthology.
Yes, as in not at all. I'm Bob. I'm interested in the, I guess, how it's trying to be shoehorned. So actually the same question. So tonally, it's very different, but I'm curious how it was shoehorned into this, especially when we see these introductions and then also afterwards, the author's really selling it to us that this is a dangerous vision. But Zach, let's talk about what happens in this story.
Sure. So you have a guy with a bad case of keeping up with the Joneses, but in this case, it's putting on appearances. He's overextended financially. He needs to keep the wife happy. He needs to keep the house going. He needs to buy the new things and put it on the credit card and take on debt. And where this gets him is finally pretty much bordering bankruptcy. He goes to his father-in-law and a notorious enemy, his father-in-law, and he asks for money. And the father-in-law won't give him any money, but what he will give him is a dollhouse. And actually, I'm just going to read the origin of this box. All I can tell you is that I bought it a few years ago somewhere between Cumae and the ruins of Pompeii, that I got it cheap and that I've seen it work. La vecchia religione, the old religion, the man said, and he wanted a quick sale, probably dug it up illegally. Inside of this dollhouse is living a little miniature oracle, like a oracle of your Loeb classical studies books lore. The kind of oracle that will tell you one thing and you think you understand the oracle, but you totally misunderstand the oracle and you end up in ruin. And he gets the oracle, and that exact thing happens. He has a big winning streak, and then finally it all goes wrong for him. And it ends, well, we can talk about the ending, because I think there's some bits to pick apart in the ending. Anything I missed? Anything you want to add to that, Bob?
I think that's the main thing, except for the shooting the cat, but we'll talk about that. Don't like a character that shoots a cat. But this is a monkey's paw story or a genie story. You will easily be out-clevered if you don't follow the instructions or you don't see through little tricks that this magical being lays out for you. Yes, this is like the Oracle at Delphi, and he gets messages from her in Latin. So he obtains a Latin dictionary and he starts decoding these little messages. Like you said, he wins some money to at horse betting. He wins some money in investments in silk. I think he's buying a lot of cloth, and he and his friend says, "Oh, I'm going to put it all in forest green. I'm going to dye all this cloth forest green, and all of the fashion designers will buy it." But he asks the oracle, and the oracle says, "Follow Caesar to somewhere," and he then realizes that he can dye it all purple, and he makes a lot of money that way. But according to David Cross, which is not his real name, according to him, this is a dangerous vision because it's a dangerous habit. It's like a gambling habit, like an addiction. He says he still has, quote, he still has the dangerous vision that guides his life, the vision of the land of pelf, the long green, the crisp bills falling gently from the money trees like dead leaves. And meanwhile, even before he gets the dollhouse, he is acting as though the vision were true. What do you think of this as the monkey's paw or the genie in the bottle, the story of biting more off than you can chew as far as this dream, this vision? Does it really fit a dangerous vision?
Yeah, it's a great question. Does it fit? I think that when we have read most of these dangerous visions before, it's rarely felt so here and now and so moralistic, right? So like if we think of, like a toy for Juliet, for example. It's about a time traveling Jack the Ripper. How is it dangerous? Well, it's transgressive, it's edgy. Or if you think of like Miriam Allen DeFord's story about prisoners and about the kind of like, forcing them to relive their crimes again and again. Again, edgy, but also imagining a kind of far flung future in which the world has changed in a way that is technologically plausible, but not quite here yet. And she's kind of giving us this vision of how things could go and kind of warning us against that. It doesn't quite play nice with the other stories in terms of what it's doing, because it's giving us something that's straight out of fantasy, or even really like kind of like tall tales, or I mean, it's really plucked out of the kind of, what would you call that, legend, myth stuff from classical Greece and Rome. It's plucked from there and it's placing it within a modern setting. I think in 9 times out of 10 when authors do that, we call it fantasy, right? But this is an SF anthology, and we're supposed to believe that the dangerous vision aspect of it is that this kind of like money chasing, status object acquiring, middle class fancy lifestyle, buy now, pay later, that this is dangerous, that this way of living is dangerous. I see the reason why the author would say that. I think that the story kind of holds up to that analysis, but it just obviously sticks out like a sore thumb in comparison to everything else. What do you think?
A major sore thumb. Zach, I want to let's be generous in just a minute and try and see how it really fits Dangerous Visions. I really like how you said it doesn't really feel like sci-fi, but it is a classic tale of a dangerous vision. But I really liked Harlan Ellison's introduction to this, because we've seen a few times where you can clearly tell that either Harlan is just trying to fit in one of his buddies, or Harlan Ellison is at his wit's end trying to classify the story. Or this one, he starts it by basically explaining to the reader, oh my God, I'm so stressed out. People keep sending me terrible stories and I have a huge slush pile to read through. Basically, a lot of people that he thought would publish with him backed out, and now he has a few slots left open. So he's asked everyone, he's asked around, he's asked his own agent. After, it sounded like hundreds of stories he went through. After hundreds of stories he gets sent from people, even that are, I guess, have been sitting in other slush piles for decades, because he gets one from the defunct Amazing Stories, and it's been shut down for like 15 years. But then he gets 2 from his agent. One is this David Cross story, and David Cross's real name, I've got it here. He was a sociologist, and he didn't want the 2 identities getting mixed up. But his real name is Hugh Jones Perry, and he wrote, I think, 4 novels as James Cross. And this is one of the only 2 people that Harlan Ellison didn't personally know that's published in Dangerous Visions. So I feel like it is definitely, Harlan Ellison just last minute needs a story, and this one's passable. It's decent. It's kind of a fun story. I don't think it fits. It is in no way. There is no way that it's sci-fi. But let's be generous and think, if it's a keeping up with the Joneses story we read in Golden Age, there does seem to be a veneer, or kind of a shiny, bright happiness to an optimism, I guess, to Golden Age science fiction, especially when we talked to the guys from the Hugonauts. They had a great point. It's all about solving problems with science, figuring things out. It always is hunky-dory. This is, if you're trying to chase that hunky-dory lifestyle, you're going to get yourself in big trouble. He also says that the dangerous vision is finding, the U.S. Mint, so the money just keeps coming. Oh, we'll crack open the doors of the U.S. Mint. Do you think it could be associated with the optimism of Golden Age science fiction and pointing out any dangers to it, even though it in no way engages in science fiction? Or is it being too generous?
Okay, I would call the connection to Golden Age science fiction possibly a little too generous for me, for my taste. But what I would give this story is a kind of...
It's a conspiracy.
Well, I would give it props for really anticipating the 1990s. I think I would say, like stories like American Beauty, even Fight Club, for example, this kind of like suspicion of, the modern life, the middle class
Of
life,
IKEA.
Starbucks and the gym and IKEA,
The gym.
house in the
It's my
burbs.
life. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it?
There's not
I
a lot
don't
of cafes
I
that
mean, I
open
don't
up at
know.
8 a.m. So I go to Starbucks a lot. On Saturdays,
Uh,
anyway. I feel embarrassed. I shouldn't
Altos.
have brought that up.
Yeah. No. I just got a new language teacher, so I'll be in
Hmm.
Starbucks at least 2 days a week now, because
See?
that's where we have classes. Yep. But formally, I think that something more of its time that actually I would totally compare this to is something like the Twilight Zone. Twilight Zone is
Oh,
full of
yes.
these kind of
Very
like,
true. Hmm.
low key, moralistic tales of people whose hubris gets them going in the wrong direction. When it has a supernatural element and their inevitable downfall. I could have seen the story being written by Rod Serling, but the ending was a little bit confusing for me. Let's pick it apart a little bit. So,
Sure.
okay, he's ruined. He takes the oracle's words and he gets too big for its britches. He puts a lot of money on some horse races. The oracle told him the 3 horses that will run the fastest. However, it didn't tell him who the winners will be, just the 3 horses who run the fastest. So he puts all of his money on this 3rd horse, and the 3rd horse gets disqualified. So he loses everything. Then he goes home and he sees the last oracle, and apparently what he'd asked was, when will I die? And it says, today. He goes in. The dollhouse where the oracle is living is open. The cat has been munching on this oracle. I don't know I guess the oracle can't die because it's immortal. It's a whole other thing. But the oracle is pretty beaten up. He takes a gun and the gun goes off. Now, at this moment, the reader assumes that his life is over. But we switch point of view to the wife who does her stuff. She comes home and she finds, when she gets home, the cat has been shot, and the husband is cradling the oracle back to life and burning bay leaf and, feeding it honey and milk and things like that. So that's the image that we end on. Does it it confused me. That's all. I guess the first thing I'll just ask is how do you understand that final prophecy with what actually happens?
The Illa Die, you'll die today.
Da. Yeah.
I wonder. So he asks, when will I die? That is his direct question, and he gets the question today. It doesn't say you will die today. It just says this day, right?
It does say this day. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Hard to say. I also interpreted it as that he's just hoping another oracle will pop up in the dollhouse, because it sounded like the cat has decapitated her. Even though she's
Yeah.
immortal, it sounds like she is dead. So it is very unclear. I took it as he's lost it, even though he has no hope at all. He has gone crazy, and he looks like a man in front of a dollhouse thinking that this supernatural thing is true. And it also feels very much connected to hubris. Like you said, he's really hoping for an answer, and he asks her, when will I die? He gets really disappointed about losing all of the money on the horse races, but what he does is extremely cruel. This is someone who is much older than he is, ancient compared to him. She's tiny, she's defenseless, and the only instructions that he got were, don't open the dollhouse, don't look at the oracle. He opens the dollhouse, and then he tortures her. He holds her right in front of Pongo the cat, which is a ridiculous name, but holds her right in front of Pongo the cat, and then has the cat just growl and get closer and closer and closer to her. So he's showing her her doom if she doesn't follow what he wants. And it's kind of depressing when she has been this cool, mysterious oracle who speaks in riddles, and he scares her so much that she just speaks in direct English from then on. At first he says,
Yeah.
"Why don't you try and give me more direct answers?" And then all she responds is, what is one thing that she responds? She just starts saying things like, "Pick the green one." It goes from amazing amazing history that's, 2,500 years old, maybe 3,000 years old, ancient history, amazing supernatural tales, and he ruins it. What do you think of that? Not just the hubris tales of Twilight Zone, but taking the genre itself and taking myths and then just, I don't know, squeezing it dry until it can't be a myth anymore and it can only speak in direct, prosaic English.
Well, it's a negative view. I suppose we could start there. It's a negative view about the capability of modern people for appreciating these things. It's a negative view of what a modern person will do if presented with a kind of supernatural advantage, I guess you could say. I
Yeah.
think that, yeah, his downfall is so interesting in the sense of like when he starts, it's you really feel for him, like you empathize with his reasons for needing just a little bit more money so he doesn't go under and lose everything, so the house doesn't get foreclosed or whatever. But by the end, he's making so much money. Like, I mean, they needed just like $50 more at the start. And by the end, he's making thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars at a time. So it's clearly gone beyond the level of mere need. And it's elevated itself to a level of grandiosity and greed. And you see that like subtly reflected in just like the little details of what he does. Like, for example, like before he goes to talk to the Oracle, he puts down his 5th martini. You know what I mean? Like, just,
Right.
just like he just turns into a drunken mess. But it's not really details that are dwelled on, but I think they're really good characterizing details that are peppered in through here. Yeah, I if there is a clear singular message about the human character that the author wants us to get through, I would just say it seems to be like a pan cynicism, but not really anything specific, if that makes sense.
And cynicism. Everyone sucks. Everyone's an idiot. Even though, it's hard to feel for him. You said we can kind of feel for him. I think he's an interesting character, and I think we might see more of him in these new wave stories, because where we had, again, people being optimistic, I think here he is not, yes, he turns hubristic. And even though he's worried about the house getting foreclosed on, he's worried about all of these things, he just keeps giving in to all of his family's demands. He spends a lot of money. Everyone else in his family spends a lot of money, and he just won't admit that he's not of that class. Because yes, he's middle class, but his wife is, upper middle or upper class. His father-in-law went to Harvard. He just has a BA, and he feels like he's not good enough. But also, he's just not doing anything right. He's just spinning way beyond his means, and he's hoping for this magical fix. I think that will be an interesting character for new wave science fiction, where it's, yes, some cynicism, but also kind of the old, I guess in Golden Age, it's Joe Sixpack too, but this feels like it's going to be focused on Joe Sixpack stuck in his own problem, not saving the day, but one who cannot pull himself up by his own bootstraps, I guess.
Yeah. This is the schlubby bubby protagonist.
Schlubby bubby.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Let's keep looking out for this character type, this kind of pathetic, can't win person who is in over their head. I think it's like an interesting character type in its own right, and it's one that, well, I hope we see more of throughout this anthology. But until then, let's get on with the next one. Talk to you later, Bob.
More schlubby bubbies ahead. Talk to you later, Zach.